Hello tankers and tankettes. Now, there's been a bit of a theme with my videos in the last, I don't know, a couple of weeks I guess. Like the last couple of replays I've put up for World of Tanks, specifically replays, have been derpy in various ways, or silly, or there's been something about them that's just been, like drowning Type 59s, or that possibly botting Tiger. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, a couple of people have gone, well, I don't think he's a bot, and here's why. And I'm still not convinced. I'm really still not convinced. It could, in theory, have been a really bad player. But the central point of that video was that it was a really, really undeserved Kolobanov's medal, and that definitely still stands true. Whether or not it was a bot, it certainly was most undeserved as a Kolobanov's. Even more so than my trolling the T7 combat cars all the way back when in the H35. So this is going to be silly again, but in a different way. And it's the VKB, so you can probably guess the way in which it is going to be silly. Now this is me, Circon and Snooze. Snooze is in the Type 61, Circon's in the T49, and we've got very, very nice matchmaking indeed. This is about as good as it gets in the VKB. There's no artillery, 3 tier 9s per side, and this map has got, well, this particular choke point is good for a well-armoured heavy tank, especially if there's no artillery. It suddenly becomes an armoured tank's dream, potentially. But, as we can see from Circon's spotting, there's a lot of enemy tanks coming this way. We don't have a lot of backup. There's myself, there's the T30, there's a Tiger 2, there's a Super Pershing, and you can't see it, but all the way back there on the K-line is another Tiger 2. So, he is in a position where he can snipe if we all die, at which point he's just going to get overwhelmed. So, yeah, he's basically useless to the team there. But, in theory he's supporting us. In theory, just not in actuality in any way, shape or form. So there we go, first contact. There's an M103, managed to pen his turret, which is a sort of a lucky shot. I mean, that's not really a reliable shot to make on the T30's turret, with this gun especially. And I get trolled a second later by, that should be a comfortable pen of the side armour on that Super Pershing. Instead, it merely tracks him. There's actually going to be a worse one later on where you think, wait, that just tracks them? What? So, there we go, just reloading. Think about trying the IS-3, but he's almost fully hulled down. Now, the fact that they have an overwhelming weight in numbers, well, I wanted this T-30 to fall back, and I actually pinged him earlier on to fall back, because he's too exposed there. I actually didn't go for the forward, or indeed further forward myself. Wait for it. Yeah, that only tracked him. Further forward myself because I didn't want to basically get shot in the side, and that's what they're doing. They're driving up and around the side of that ridge, because in the middle of the map there is only a Type 59 that can snipe those tanks in the side as they're doing it. There's one tank that can actually support us. So Snooze actually came to help out. Circon is unfortunately about to die. And this is looking pretty damn bad. This is a lot of their team. An awful lot of their team. I'm just targeting the C75 out of priority. But all they have to do at the moment is just drive forward. Right, they have the numbers. They have the hit points. We're being flanked here. So the Tiger 2 goes down. And I'm actually going forward a little bit to try and attract more fire, to take some fire from Snooze, because I really need Snooze to protect my flank. Circon's now dead as well, so if Snooze can take the heat off my flank, then it's fine. But the M103 goes forward, all the while being pelted by Snooze. Actually rams me. IS-3 goes round, M103 again. And yeah, this is the point where it's like, okay, we're all going to die. Except no, Snooze being here has actually... This looks like it's going to be a really bad situation, but the IS-3 is the only one that really actually tries to drive around me. And the Super Pershing and the T-29 hung all the way back, so that was a lot happening very quickly. But, partly because I'm in a VKB, and partly because Snooze was there to provide that flanking fire to actually have that damage output, because on my own I don't have enough damage output at all, not with a 14-second reload. But that was just, that was an intense 30 seconds while it was actually happening, I can tell you. And the ST1 might have been able to pull it off as well, the E75 might have been able to pull it off, but the VKB certainly could, as we just learned. Now, they actually did the right thing there, it's just not enough of them did it at the same time, and they ignored snooze much to their cost. So I go for the tracking shot with Carnarvon. I'm hoping it would actually, you know, with that shot I was hoping I'd pen up into his tank, but not at that angle, so I do track him anyway, it's useful all the same. And I know I don't have to worry about him at this point. Now again, this Carnarvon, you know, if he'd come in with all the rest of them, they really could have overwhelmed us with numbers, but just look at that graveyard of tanks behind us. Myself and Snooze just walking away. Battered, bruised, but not unbroken. Now at this point, this is it. Game over for me. There's one last T-34, who Snooze is actually able to snipe. He did quite nicely out of this battle as well, as we'll see from the results. But that was one of those ones where, yeah, no, that was quite silly, really, wasn't it? They had absolutely the weight of numbers, and they were flanking us, and yet, yeah. So that was a steel wall, unsurprisingly. High caliber medal for me, because I actually was able to just, every time I reloaded, after a certain point, every time I reloaded, I had something to shoot at. That was actually my first gun barrel mark on this tank, which was quite nice. I had no idea, I had no expectations at what level I would need to get this, and I haven't actually been following the percentages on my my list very well either, so when these happen, generally these are a surprise, so yeah, that's quite nice. It was myself on the team, it was a Type 59 in second place, and Snooze in third. Circon died with only getting 1 or 2 shots off, so he was unfortunately all the way down there. And at the very bottom of the team we had that Superstar Tiger 2 who was all the way back on the K-line, who did a grand total of nothing. Yeah, that's how you play a tier 8 heavy tank. Even with that matchmaking, where it was mostly tier 8s versus mostly tier 8s, he just hid all the way at the back and hoped his team would carry him. And in this case we did. And in this case it was more the VKB armor that carried me, but yeah, it got hairy. I just managed to somehow keep my cool long enough to keep the gun working, and I'm sure I must have sounded quite frantic on the stream, but yeah, it was GG all the same. We did manage to carry that through quite nicely. And if you look at the enemy team's damage, they weren't actually really doing the damage that well either. But having said that, you know, there's a PSA in here somewhere. If you come across a VKB who is alone, and you're pretty sure he doesn't have any backup behind him, you just go for it if you've got the numbers. You go around. That's how you defeat that frontal armor. You don't shoot at the frontal armor. You just drive around, because it really can't traverse well at all. It's a very sluggish machine. And if more of them had, I mean, that M103 ramming into me certainly left me stationary, but it wasn't necessarily then the best way to do damage. I think he only got 1 or 2 damaging shots into me. The IS-3 actually was a much bigger threat. He was the one that took out my ammo rack. And that, you know, if I'd used my repair kit before that point already, I wouldn't have been able to put up, out enough damage. It would have been a lot more on Snooze. We still might have done it, but me not being able to fire my gun, you know, or, well, having to fire it twice as slowly, would have had a significant impact. So it was just that combination of things, and if more of them had done what the IS-3 had done, who was the, I think it was the E75 that literally just drove to my front. You know, that was a complete mistake, and he showed me his lower front plate right before he did it, so I got that shot in beforehand, which was probably quite good in terms of getting some damage. So the E75 utterly misplayed that, and the Super pushing the T29 by hanging back so far, and the Carnarvon especially steaming round at the end as that little bit of hit point icing on the cake. I've used that icing on the cake phrase a couple of times in the last. I don't know where that's come from in my brain, but there it is. But yeah, they didn't do it enough, and they didn't do it smart enough, but in theory that's how you do it. But in this case the VKB was just too strong. So I'll be a bit sad when it's gone. There are other silly tanks with silly amounts of armor in the game. But yeah, the VKB buff, it was one that literally nobody asked for, and yet that's the one they put in all the same. It's a little bit illogical, but wargaming. So, if you like this replay, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.